Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Francis Dunnery Astrology yet again. Please press the subscribe button before you do anything else. Just stick it there, click it and give it a click. Today we're going to be talking about Saturn in Scorpio. And Saturn in Scorpio, Scorpio in general actually is a crisis point of any chart. It's always a point where you have to relinquish being yourself. It's a letting go of your identity. That's why in the astrological books they say sex and death. That's what they mean. They mean coming together with another person at a intimate level. It's not so much a seventh house thing. The seventh house is about friends. This is about like partnerships, like deep, intimate connectiveness. And let's say, for instance, your name's Brian and my name's Francis, and we go into business together and we're going to sell candles, right? And we put a sign above the door, the candle shop. And now that sign above the door means that we're no longer Francis and Brian. We're now the candle shop people. I've had to let go of my identity as Francis. Now I'm just a candle shop. Oh, they go down there and see the candle shop people. Right? And so that's what they mean by sex and death. It's when you let go of yourself, when you let go and relinquish your own identity. And become a part of somebody else, like add something to yourself, and if this is done successfully, this can create a deep sense of loyalty, like it has a lot of upsides to it, like Scorpio friends who are your real friends, they're definitely a bit paranoid and all that, but they're really good friends. Like, they're loyal and they won't let go of you because they've identified with you. They've become part of your system, like they're in the candle shop. But when you put Saturn in Scorpio, or Saturn in the 8th house in that position, then all bets are off at that point, because it becomes a fear of letting go. It becomes a fear. It becomes a paranoia. It becomes a reluctance to be vulnerable. They can't be vulnerable, Saturn in Scorpio people, and because of that, they shut everybody out, and there's always a wall in front of them. You can't actually get at them. And even though they, in the beginning, if you get in a relationship with these people, in the beginning, they try, because they do try, and they think, maybe, because they actually don't know this is taking place because it's their shadow. And so they're trying to kind of, hey, how you doing? But eventually, they just keep pulling further and further and further back until the doors slam shut. And you're with somebody who, in effect, is on their own. And then you're on your own at that point. And they'll accuse you of backing out of the relationship, because that's what they do, but they can't see it's actually them. Their fear of being vulnerable, their reluctance to enter into a relationship with anybody, their inability or fear of letting go and letting, if they were in a rock band, they wouldn't actually be in the band. They'd just be playing their instrument up until the point where they think they could break off on their own because they don't trust anybody in the band. It's always about, I don't trust them. I can't trust them. But you got to watch out for them. You have to be careful of them. But of course, they're talking about themselves, because they know that they'll bail on you in 2 seconds. And they know that they're not really in the situation. That's why they accuse everybody else of not really being in the situation. Well, you're not really in the relationship. I can't really trust you. You're not really, because that's exactly what they are. And it causes all sorts of problems, everywhere from the bedroom through to business, especially in business. But that if they're have a career where they have to do that sort of business every day and be and enter into different contracts with people, it's an absolute nightmare for them, because they can't do it. They're just in a ever paranoid state of I can't trust these people. I can't trust these people. And so they go through life like that, a fear of being vulnerable, a fear they just don't trust anybody in the world. And and that message is relayed to them, and they prove it to themselves over and over again, because they surround themselves with people just like them who you can't trust. You can't trust people with Saturn in Scorpio and Saturn in the 8th house, because they'll sell you down the road in 2 seconds. They'll sell you out. So you got to be careful with them. But of course they'll accuse you of doing that. And so this fear of intimacy, this causes all sorts of things in the bedroom, even all sorts of problems. This fear of being vulnerable causes all sorts of problems in business. And the person with Saturn in Scorpio ultimately ends up alone if they don't address the situation. And it's a difficult situation to address because it deals with like the real kind of inner sanctum of everybody's psyche. You know, you have to, like, you can't pretend to be vulnerable. You either are or you aren't. You're either going to put yourself online or you're not. But if you can't, you're just going to go through life on your own, not trusting anybody in the world. But the second the person with Saturn in Scorpio realizes this and begins to address it, then this fear of intimacy, this fear of trust, or this lack of trust begins to dissolve immediately. I always tell my clients with Saturn in Scorpio or Saturn in the 8th house, I always tell them, just start off with something small. Offer somebody one of your mints in your tin. Yeah, would you like a mint? Any sort of sharing, any sort of talk, doesn't matter what it is. Hey, would you like a cup of tea? Doesn't matter what it is. Sharing is the absolute must for Saturn in Scorpio people. If they don't share, then they're going to end up like that. And so you have to find a way, and they're not going to be able to go out and just like dive in bed with somebody or go into business with somebody and not be paranoid. That's not how it is. But through a slow process of developing trust in themselves by saying like, all right, I gave him a mint and he didn't kill me. So there you go. So you just prove over and over again that the world can be trusted. And more importantly, that you can be trusted, because ultimately speaking, this is coming from you if you're the one with Saturn in Scorpio. Excuse me. And so this process, the second that they do, there's all sorts of rewards for them, because they're going to find themselves in relationships and surrounded by people who they can trust, because finally they can trust themselves. If you commit to somebody, because it's about loyalty at the bottom end of, at the end of the day, it's all about loyalty. And if you're loyal to other people, you have to prove to yourself that you're loyal. Because once you prove you're loyal, then you believe that loyalty exists in the world. Right? So it's all about loyalty. If you can't prove your loyalty to yourself, you'll never see it in the world. If you prove to yourself, like, hey, you know what? I know this guy did that, but I'm loyal to him. And you show that sort of loyalty, then you're going to start to believe that that loyalty exists, because it exists in you. All roads lead right back to you. Whatever circles comes from the center, it's all you. And of course, the second that happens is all the relationships become more fulfilling. I mean, I don't think with Saturn in Scorpio, you're going to have a huge amount of friends who you can trust like that. There might be 3 or 4, like ultimately speaking, there might be 3 or 4 people who you can who you'll trust like that. And that's enough. That's enough, because you'll prove to yourself that, that loyalty exists, which is the goal here. And then you can get that monkey off your back, because it's very difficult to go around not trusting the world. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. It's painful almost. And so that's it for today, people. That's my 5 cents worth for today for Saturn in Scorpio. If you know anybody with Saturn in Scorpio, let them know what we've said, or send them to here. Then they can press that subscribe button. Don't forget that subscribe button, right? And I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow with some Saturn in Sagittarius news. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. See you later. Bye.